Hello, welcome to DDoc and welcome to Doc Day, to a special edition of Doc Day, that is, because today is World Diabetes Day. November 14th is World Diabetes Day. On this day, people living with diabetes around the globe celebrate that pretty much 100 years ago, Frederick Banting discovered insulin. That was a discovery that made him the youngest medical doctor in history to ever receive the Nobel Prize for Medicine, and it enables us, people living with diabetes, to live. World Diabetes Day is celebrated around the world, in every country around the world today, under the overarching topic that is set every year by the International Diabetes Federation. This year, and for the last year, and for next year as well, it is access to diabetes care, and this year specifically, access to diabetes care and education. However, national diabetes associations and people living with diabetes around the world will advocate for very different things, not only depending on where they live, where they come from, but also simply depending on what they consider important for their very personal lives and in their specific context, of course. Now, DDoc is an international community of diabetes advocates with our DDoc Voices. Those are the alumni of our DDoc Voices scholarship program, living in more than 50 countries around the world. So for this special edition of Doc Day, what we usually do on World Diabetes Day is we want to show the world, we want to show you, our audience, how colorful and lively and diverse people with diabetes celebrate World Diabetes Day, what they advocate for, what is important to them. Last year we did that. This year we'll do it again. We try to pick different countries, different people every time. And this is what we're doing today. So during the next 2 hours, we will ask our speakers from around the world what November 14th means to them, what they consider relevant today, and what topics they think will become important in 2023. Before we start this, we call it our Eurovision Song Contest. That's what we did last year. This year it will be global, I promise. Before we start, I would like to thank our partners. Partners who are supporting this special edition of Doc Day on World Diabetes Day are Medtronic, Sanofi, and Diabeloop. Diabeloop has just launched a new campaign, which you can learn more about on our website, ddoc.org/World Diabetes Day, and of course on Diabeloop's social media accounts. We will shortly also be hearing from Sanofi, and they will also talk about what World Diabetes Day and the topic of education means to them. But for now, it is my great honor to kick off this Doc Day with Miray Kaymaz from Medtronic to talk about the Blue Balloon Challenge. The Blue Balloon Challenge is a diabetes awareness campaign and a fundraiser for Life for a Child. And we have launched this campaign together last year, and it is currently going viral again on social media. Miray, welcome to Doc Day.
Hi, Bastian. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm connecting from beautiful Athens, and such an honor to be with you today in this special day. Crossing my fingers that my internet connection is going to be stable throughout the whole session.
So far, everything works beautifully, Miray. Thank you for joining us. Miray, before we start talking about the Blue Balloon Challenge, and although many will have seen the movie already on the website, on social media, just now before we went live, we wanted to show this beautiful movie again. So here it is, the new campaign film of the Blue Balloon Challenge.
Living with type 1 diabetes is like doing everything in your daily life while keeping a balloon in the air. It's a constant balancing act. Stepping out into the world can be challenging. Sometimes draining, sometimes lonely. It's an invisible condition that isn't always easy to explain, even for us. Sometimes we need the support and guidance of others. We all have our own ways of keeping our balloons in the air. Join the Blue Balloon Challenge, and for every post, Medtronic will donate €5 to the Life for a Child organisation to provide insulin for children living with diabetes.
Miray, we just had to show this again. Every time I see the film, I get a little shiver down my spine. And it is such an honor to partner with you, with Medtronic, on this important campaign. Now, I could talk about this forever, but it is your campaign primarily. So how about you give us an update? Where do we stand with the Blue Balloon Challenge? What has been happening in the last 2 months that we have brought this back to life this year?
Absolutely. Well, I feel the same, Bastian, and I'm so surprised with myself that every time I watch, I get the same emotions as if I was watching it for the first time. Well, first of all, it's our campaign, and I'm so appreciative that it had been a great collaboration so far with the core DDoC team as well as the bigger DDoC community to design this campaign, bring it to life. We are seeing an amazing momentum. I mean, when we started the campaign, we were thinking, well, by the time World Diabetes Day comes, we would be almost at the end of it. But we are thinking that this is going to be the peak of the campaign. We see a lot of challenges performed, shared online from all over the world. And I feel the great honor that something that we have co-developed with the DDoC team is now shared and adopted in so many different locations. So this is wonderful. Yeah, as I said, November is going to be very loaded. Don't think that the blue balloon is coming to an end. It's really at the peak. So please continue giving us your support that you have given so far wonderfully. I think it's thanks to this community that we have gained so much visibility and so much power. There are a number of new things that you will see around the Blue Balloon campaign. We had been intensely pushing for the Blue Balloon campaign and the awareness around the diabetes disease, mainly through the online channels. And now, actually, since last weekend, you will see a lot of offline activities, physical activities around the Blue Balloon. Last Saturday, actually, on the 12th of November, we had our first big event. It was in London, in the King's Crossing, actually. It's a very big station where we had we broke the Guinness record of keeping the balloon in the air the longest. We always need to find these creative ways to get the visibility, get the attention of broader society around the diabetes. So that was the first event. You're going to see actually a lot of blue balloon corners, diabetes corners in big shopping malls. If you go to Rome, Milano, Madrid, it's our opportunity again to get the attention of broader society about diabetes. And lastly, we will have a very, very nice way to give this campaign a big visibility in France. For people joining from France, you would know that daily newspaper that everyone read in Tube and in Metro, the 20 Minutes, Blue Balloon is going to be on the cover picture of the 20 Minutes for a number of days. So we are very excited, very, very excited with the good momentum we are keeping. I guess the show is going to be on until December, Bastian, maybe even until Christmas.
We think so too. I mean, we've seen how it has really evolved from last year, where it was primarily online. And we have to say, what I think is most important or most valuable about this is that when Medtronic approached us and said, hey, do you want to partner on this campaign? It was very clear that this was going to be a European campaign targeted at a few markets, France, Italy, Spain, Germany, the UK. Last year already, when we brought our DDoC Voices on board and the online community came on Instagram, on Facebook, it spread far, far beyond that. And this year, also you internally in Medtronic have managed to bring your LATAM team, your US team, Canada. So many countries are joining, and it's just been blowing out of proportion. I think that's amazing.
Absolutely. And I think we see an amazing collaboration and closeness in the whole diabetes community all over the world. If Medtronic didn't launch it in other regions, the community asked the question, why am I not seeing this campaign in the US or Canada? So I love that pressure. I guess there is another thing that it would be nice to update this team that you will see in the upcoming days and the weeks. We are moving to the phase 2 of the campaign, as we have promised at the beginning. When we were looking at this year's campaign with the DDoC community, one very loud and clear feedback we have received is that balloon is great. It gives a great illustration of what it is to live with diabetes to people who don't know about diabetes. But there's so much depth that we can give a light with this campaign. So we are going to start our personal stories section, meaning we will have people filming themselves, sharing their story with diabetes, because we know there is so much depth, so much personalization in those stories. So hopefully Balloon is going to be a nice way to also convey those messages. Yeah, please don't stop. Continue giving your support. And if you happen to see one of those physical events, go feel at home and join our Medtronic team, because this is also your project.
And I think it is important to know and important to repeat here that yes, this is an awareness campaign, but it is very, very easy to participate. Most of the action is taking place via Instagram and on social media. So if you just follow our accounts or go to the website Blue Balloon Challenge, one word, BlueBalloonChallenge.org, there it will show you how you can activate your Instagram to put a little blue balloon in your Instagram story. You can use or reuse those visuals on other social media accounts. So it's really, really easy to participate. But the main thing that we should not forget, Miray, is that this is not just any other campaign. It is a fundraiser. It is a fundraiser
Absolutely.
for Life for a Child, an amazing organization that we have been partnering with. And you said that for every time anyone around the world will participate and put the hashtag Blue Balloon Challenge and tag you guys, for every time there is a post with a blue balloon going up, you will donate €5 to this amazing organization, Life for a Child. Where do we stand on that? How much money are you spending already?
We already have a couple of challenges, a lot more than last year's. I think when I have seen the results, we are already approaching 4,000 challenges, which is way more than last year's. Last year we had less than that when we counted at the end of December. So I think this year we are gonna double, triple, if not exceed that limit. As you said, every challenge counts. I say that in every gathering we have with this community. We are all exposed to so many different messages during the day. Showing the message one time doesn't really nail it down, doesn't really make it memorable. That's why we need to share it several times to the same audience in order to make it memorable and impactful. So please continue sharing, and you will see, I guess, in the upcoming minutes, I'm not the only one that is very thankful to this solidarity and support you are giving. Our colleagues, our partners in Life for a Child are also very, very appreciative of the support that.
Yes, and I think, Miray, if I remember correctly, last year, because these challenges went on and they actually continued way after November and way after December even, you decided to then round up and you donated €100,000 for this Blue Balloon Challenge to Life for a Child. And I think what we will do now is we will show a short thank you video from Graham Ogle, who's the founder and the CEO of Life for a Child, who will explain a little bit what kind of impact that has. And again, I would like to say, if anybody wants to participate, wants to learn more, please visit BlueBalloonChallenge.org, follow our socials, do participate. And talking about real action, we'll even send you a proper blue balloon if you sign up there. You can go to the website, sign up with your address, and we will send you blue balloons right away, even today on World Diabetes Day. With that, Miray, thank you very much for supporting Doc Day, for running this great campaign with us. And let's look at Graham Ogle, the founder and CEO of Life for a Child, and what he has to say about the impact of the fundraising part. Thank you, Miray.
Thank you, Bastian. Thanks, the Doc team, for everything that you do, and thanks for having me today.
Hi there, my name is Graham Ogle. I'm the General Manager of Life for a Child program based here in Sydney, Australia, where summer is coming. And I'd just like to thank everyone involved with the Blue Balloon Challenge this year, everyone at Medtronic EU and DDoc and all the diabetes online communities and everyone who's helping. There's heaps of problems in the world, as we all know, and governments do their best to support them. But as we all know, people with type 1 diabetes have lots of challenges. And even for me, just trying to balance this balloon and at the same time look at the camera and remembering what I have to say isn't easy. And what's amazing about the Blue Balloon Challenge and lots of other initiatives in the diabetes space is it's people affected with diabetes helping people with diabetes to live the best lives possible. And this is the sort of advocacy that we really need. And I'd just like to thank you all for being involved. And this is a lot of fun as well. And have a good day there. Bye.
Now that again was Graham Ogle, the general manager and founder of Life for a Child. He sent us this video earlier from Australia, which is where they're based, serving children with diabetes all around the world in some of the least developed countries with insulin test strips and diabetes care. And the Blue Balloon Challenge raises funds for this organization. Now, let's start what we call our Eurovision Song Contest. As I said, we will be going around asking people living with diabetes around Europe and then around the world how they celebrate World Diabetes Day and what it means to them. And as our first guest for this, it is my great honor to welcome Elisabeth Dupont, the regional manager of IDF Europe, with whom we are co-hosting this event, for her opening remarks. Elisabeth, please join me on stage. There you are.
Thank you so much, Bastian, for inviting IDF Europe to join this event and to co-host the event. We were very pleased last year to be able to already do this. For us, it's amazingly important to be able to celebrate World Diabetes Day with the online community, but also with our member association. So for us, it's a wonderful opportunity to have the opportunity to include IDF Europe Members Association from all around Europe to join this event. We know they are doing an amazing job. We know that they are doing so much on World Diabetes Day, and giving visibility to them is really an amazing opportunity. Thank you for this.
And this is what Dog Day is all about, to bring people from all walks of life, and on this day, especially from all over the world together. I talked about that in the beginning. World Diabetes Day is very often a national affair. It's being celebrated all over the world, but it's very much like we do here in a couple of hours. We do Germany's World Diabetes Day, but it is a global thing, really, and we wanted to bring this wide variety here. Now, you as regional manager for IDF Europe, can you tell us what are important topics during this year's World Diabetes Day from a European perspective? And then specifically for IDF Europe as an organization, what are you advocating for these days? What's on your agenda in Brussels, please?
So, as you know, Bastian, our agenda has been very, very busy this year, and is specifically busy right now. As last year, we are celebrating the centenary of insulin again, and we feel that it's so important to be able to leverage that unique opportunity to make sure that we raise awareness of diabetes. And we want to raise awareness about diabetes like Medtronic does within the community, but we also want to do it very much amongst policymakers. So this year we have been working extensively with the members of the European Parliament to call for a new diabetes resolution, and this has taken a lot of our efforts, and we are very, very excited to see how much support we have gotten from many MEPs from Brussels, but also from the President of the European Parliament, Roberta Metsola. She herself suggested that we should go for a new diabetes resolution. She was very instrumental 10 years ago for the first resolution, and she said things are changing, and as you've mentioned earlier, diabetes continues to rise, so we definitely need to do something. So she was very convinced that more needs to be done, and you will hear that from her own words. So we are very, very excited to have received a video recording from President Metsola. It's short, but very powerful, and I really would like to share that with you and the DDoc community.
And we will do that right now. Thank you, Elisabeth.
Today, on World Diabetes Day, we raise awareness of the impact that this life-altering disease has on millions of people across the world. Over 30 million citizens suffer from diabetes in the European Union. The number has doubled over the last 2 decades. We need to change the trend. The European Parliament has the interests of the diabetes community high on its agenda. Yet we remain painfully aware that we need to do more. This is why this House has been calling for a European Health Union, and why next week we will vote on a new resolution to improve the health and well-being of people living with diabetes. From prevention to research on modern and affordable devices, more can and must be done to make the lives of diabetics easier. This year also marks the centenary anniversary of the discovery of insulin, a landmark breakthrough in the history of medicine that transformed the diabetes diagnosis from a death sentence to a manageable disease. This is what humankind is capable of achieving when science meets true and decisive political commitment. We need more of this, and we need more of this now. There is simply no more time to lose.
Elisabeth, as you said, short message, but this is from the President of the European Parliament. You can hardly get any higher than this here in Europe. And having her speak out so openly and clearly on behalf of people living with diabetes in Europe, calling for such a new resolution to put more power behind what we're all trying to achieve is so super important and so powerful. And I would like to thank you and the many people in the IDF Europe office and in all the member associations of IDF Europe who've been putting their energy behind it, who've been calling MEPs, who've been working with you on making this happen. Because of course, a statement like this doesn't come out of the blue. There's been a lot of drive and advocacy behind it. It was just in the thank you. IDF Europe as an organization set up together with partners, manages the MEP interest group, MEPs mobilizing for diabetes. So it's been a lot of work to get this far, and there's still a lot of work to get done until this resolution is hopefully going to be finalized and passed. What is the prospect, and what is going to be the key messages? What do you think?
So thanks, Bastian. I think you've just said it. There is still a lot to be done. So technically, if the resolution remains on the agenda, it will be discussed on Monday, the 21st of November, in plenary debate, in the presence of Roberta Metsola, but also of the Health Commissioner, Stella Kyriakides. So again, a high-level discussion. And it would then be voted by the Parliament on the 22nd. So as Miray said, every challenge counts. For us, every vote will count. So please, if you can share it with your channels, your friends, your colleagues, the entire community, I think that would be an amazing support for the resolution. I think together we are stronger. So if we can work on this all together, that would be an amazing achievement for the diabetes community. And this would really be the path for more to be done on diabetes. I think the sense of urgency mentioned by Roberta Metsola is really what matters. So we should act now.
And now is great because, like I said, all fingers crossed for Monday next week and then Tuesday next week for the vote. For everybody watching here who is even close in policymaking or has access to an MEP or can reach out, please do so. You can find this video and more information on the diabetes resolution on IDF Europe's website. Go out there, share a post, call one of your MEPs if you can. There's so many things that even individuals can do to raise the awareness for this important piece of work and then hopefully get it passed Monday, Tuesday next week. Elisabeth, with that, thank you very much. Thank you to Brussels. Thank you again for co-hosting this special Doc Day on World Diabetes Day with us. Good luck for the next couple of days. I know you have a couple of events coming up around World Diabetes Day. You've been running some already. And we will now hear from some of IDF Europe's member associations and other advocates in Europe and then from around the world.
Thanks again, Bastian, and thanks you for having us.
Thank you, Elisabeth. And with that, I would go straight to Portugal. And it is my great honor to invite Joao Nabais to this stage. Joao, can you hear me? There he is. Joao, you have been a vice president of IDF Europe a couple of years ago. You are a member of the Portuguese Diabetes Association, which is, I think, the oldest diabetes association in all of Europe, one of the founding members. When you hear Elisabeth presenting, when you hear what they're doing for this resolution, maybe you can comment on that, but then also answer the main question we have for today, for this Doc Day. What about World Diabetes Day in Portugal? How is it being celebrated? What is happening where you are close to Lisbon?
Thank you for having me, and good afternoon to all of you. In fact, the EPDP, the Portuguese Diabetes Association, is the oldest association in the world. It was founded in 2096, so more than 85 years ago. And then the message from the Roberta Metsola is quite powerful indeed, because these type of resolutions are key, are powerful tools when approaching the politicians at our own national parliaments, because it's coming from the European Parliament. I was involved in the previous declaration, and then there was the same procedure. It was a powerful tool when approaching local governments. And what Roberta said, it was clearly important. We don't have any time to lose now. We need to call to action is needed. It was needed, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, of course, but we are living in a time that we don't really have time to lose any longer. Again, as you said, if any of you that are listening, if you have any contacts on the MEP, the contacts are easy to spot on the website. The MEPs do like when they receive emails on their own language. Most of the times they do open emails that they receive from the national constituency. So sending an email in your own language will make an impact, I'm sure. Well, when it comes to Portugal, a lot of celebration now in all countries. In Portugal, we have a slightly different situation rather than in Germany, because in Portugal we have EPDP, the Portuguese Diabetes Association, which does not have branches all over the place in Portugal. So we have small local organizations that do their own celebrations. But we are focusing now on access to technology in Portugal. There is a petition going on in Portugal in order to call an action from the the Portuguese Parliament to give access to technology in Portugal. So that should be the main focus of the PDP campaign this year. We are having today a debate on the Lisbon City Hall about healthy places. And that debate will, of course, get together politicians, policymakers, and we are putting diabetes high on the agenda. Of course, that we are focusing also on education this year, because it's a team that is coming from the International Diabetes Federation itself. And also what I'm seeing more in Portugal, to be honest, this year, is celebrations that do involve runs or walks, or something like that. I think this year we are having more than in the past years, if I may say so.
Yeah, and what I like about Portugal and the way your organization is set up, you just said it is more centrally organized, the organization as such, but it leads to this diabetes awareness on the local level really being something like a grassroots movement. There's more smaller initiatives all over the country. And I've had the honor to look at those quite closely 2-3 years back. It's quite amazing how then individuals take things into their own hands. And we see this happening all over the place. But in Portugal, there seems to be a very strong movement behind us that is maybe pushed by ADPD, but it's also coming from down below.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's from the different angles, indeed, because it was linked with the past and how the association developed in Portugal. And as you said, the grassroots are all over the country. So we have associations from the south to the north, east to the west. And again, they are doing their own local celebrations, which are great, because in a way, they are contacting the mayors of the city, which at the end of the day, it has a great impact on people's lives. Because if you want to have in your city an healthy place, a place for instance for a walk or for a run, you need to approach the city mayor. So it's one way to go, and they see it. I think it had an impact, and it's having an impact in local communities, definitely.
So what I like about this example is that it shows that there's this saying, think global, act local, and this is really something I see happening in Portugal quite well. There is this well, not global, but national scheme coming. There's IDF Europe, but then there's your organization putting a very strong emphasis on, as you said this year, access to technology, access to education, but then the action is really happening very, very locally on the ground.
Even because education here in Portugal are not reimbursed yet, so people are doing therapeutic education at hospitals, local healthcare centers, EPDPs. Of course, it's a medical center by excellence for diabetes, but the education not reimbursed yet at the hospital level, for instance. So people don't have the time to fully have a proper education for diabetes in the consultations, because the time is very limited, of course. So it's still a problem in that angle.
Yeah. And Joao, moving from today's event, World Diabetes Day, and those two core topics into next year, what do you think will be the two main, or the one main topic maybe for 2023 that you, your organization, people living with diabetes will call for, will advocate for in Portugal?
Mm-hmm. Well, the next year, we are entering a very difficult period all over Europe, all over the world, because the inflation is what it is, and because of our life in the country is not making any easier in a way. So I think the access to proper care, access to proper diabetes care would be a major topic in the future, because people would have more difficulty in traveling to healthcare centers maybe. So I would say the access to diabetes care of quality, I think, would be high on the agenda for the years to come. And we need to, in Portugal, I think we never accomplished tasks that were in our minds for the last 10 years or so, which is to set up in our parliament a diabetes discussion group, like you have in the European Parliament, like we have in other countries. So in the past we tried more than once, but we never accomplished that task. So I am hoping that in the years to come, let's say next year and the year after, we manage to set up, because it makes a difference, it makes an impact. Because if you have an internal discussion group in the parliament, like we have in the European Parliament, you raise your voice and you spread the word on diabetes at multiple levels, and you can approach in the easier way the parliamentarians.
Yeah. No, I can fully relate and fully agree. So hopefully by next year, World Diabetes Day, we can see you here again and hear whether you've managed to set up that discussion group and whether the discussions around access to care, to technology, to education have moved any further. Joao, thank you very much. We'll continue to move on and see. I think the topic of access we will see reflected in all the answers we will be hearing today. There's many other people joining us from different countries, and I look forward to hearing what they have to say from their countries. For now, thank you very much, Joao, joining us live from Portugal on behalf of the oldest diabetes association in the world.
And to end up, and this week, Thursday and Friday, it will be the Diabetes Congress, EPDP Diabetes Congress, and I will do the Blue challenge in my lecture, and I will film it and I will put it on social media.
Then you should tell us again, because you know that half of the world in diabetes advocacy is coming to your country and to your city, to Lisbon, in the first week of December, because that's where the World Diabetes Congress of IDF Global is taking place. So you are very much in the center of attention right now. Joao, see you in Lisbon.
Thank you.
With that, we move straight on, and I'm going to continue to ask very similar questions, but surely getting different answers. We are now moving live to Bulgaria. Maya Victorova, can you hear me? Can you join me on stage?
I can hear you.
Hello,
very
Maya.
well.
Wonderful.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Maya, tell us, World Diabetes Day in Bulgaria. How is it being celebrated? What are the key topics in your country these days?
Well, I'm lucky to speak after Joao, because I can continue in the same way, telling you that similar to Portugal, we are celebrating all over the country by regions. Actually, Bulgarian Diabetes Association is a nationwide organization with membering other associations, like 70 in number. And we have already past events, I mean, in our regional centers like Pleven, like Montana, like Vidin, they already did their events supported by the central office, and everywhere with a bit of education, because I can take the last sentence of the president of the European Parliament. We need more of this, and we need it now. So, to my opinion, the education and the continuous education of the people with diabetes is very important, and it is something we are missing in Bulgaria, like a process and like education which is reimbursed. So here is the role actually of our organization also, because we have such educational programs which we extend during the years through our regional centers to our members. Hopefully this year, after COVID, we restarted this activity, and this is something which we develop very actively, but we will need to be developed also by the authorities, by the Ministry of Health, because actually otherwise it can't be like a structured process. It should be part of a national program, which actually is our major goal or major aim to achieve. And
Maya, if I may interrupt, it is something I hear quite a bit through my work on the board of IDF Europe, actually, that especially from a European perspective in countries in Eastern Europe where the healthcare system is maybe less strong than here in Germany, for example, or even in Portugal, that associations like yours really fill in the gap, especially when it comes not so much to diabetes care as such, but to the holistic, issues like education, the holistic thing around it, from peer support to education to providing support.
Psychological support also, which is totally missing, not existing. And talking about our activity for the year which passed already, there is something I am proud of. The campaign we made together with some partners for screening for diabetes retinopathy, which is actually something also missing. Patients with diabetes need to have a very clear path for the things they need to do to check for eventual complications for eyes, for kidney, for heart, etc. And this is also something which is missing, like a structured approach, structured guidelines, or structured path for the patient. So we did a 2-year campaign. This year was the second phase, where actually the results showed up that really this is something very important, very needed, because maybe 50% of the persons who passed through these exams were actually needed to have some follow-up and additional checks, even though some medical treatment, additional medical care.
So you screen through your organization, you screen for people at high risk and then give them recommendation, education,
yes,
send them to the doctor.
This was done by mobile equipment and in remote areas, because actually in big cities where there are big hospitals, this is easy. But in remote areas, in very small cities or villages, people don't have access to such specific checks.
And
like,
Bulgaria is a huge country. I've traveled through there several times. Maya, for the end of your talk, you brought a picture from the Blue Monument Challenge, which is something that is happening in many countries around the world as well.
Yes.
In commemoration of World Diabetes Day, diabetes associations, governments are being encouraged to light up important monuments in blue. And this is happening right now in your capital, right now?
Yes, it is a bit early, maybe in half an hour. It will be lightened in blue. This is the National Palace of Culture, which is in the city center. Very nice place where many people is going every day. So I'm very happy that everyone could see. And because we published this morning in our website, also on the website of the National Palace of Culture and everywhere, that the National Palace of Culture will be lighted in blue, so everybody will know why.
Wonderful. I always think every year it's a powerful symbol that brings countries together. On the IDF Global website, you can see pictures from all over the world where ministries of health, governments, diabetes associations are lighting up monuments. We did this a couple of years ago with the Brandenburg Gate here and many other buildings. It's always a fun activity. Maya, thank you very much for joining us live from Bulgaria, for talking about what is important on World Diabetes Day in Bulgaria. And now go out and watch and enjoy the National Palace lights lighting up as soon as it gets dark. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
With that, we continue our Eurovision Song Contest, and we are moving to the United Kingdom, to London actually. And it is my great honor to welcome Douglas, Twenefour, who is joining us on behalf of Diabetes UK, the British Diabetes Association. Douglas, can you hear me?
Yes, indeed. Hi, Bastian. Thank you for having us.
Douglas, same question to you. I mean, Diabetes UK is probably one of the largest, most powerful diabetes associations in Europe. You are very professionally organized. Some other organizations, I'm sure Maya's organization, look at you with a bit of, I don't want to say jealousy, but many associations struggle with being only volunteer-based. You are one of the largest, or I think the largest association in Europe in terms of members and staff, but also with lots of volunteers all over the country. I really look forward to hearing from you what's happening all over England and the UK on this special day, on World Diabetes Day.
Thank you. Happy World Diabetes Day to you and to everyone joining us today. So this year, our theme for World Diabetes Day is the story. And the thinking is that some of the stories that we've heard about people with diabetes, how they've been diagnosed, it's not a story that we want to continue. So in the UK, we have one person diagnosed with diabetes every 2 minutes. But some of the diagnoses are missed, such that people get diagnosed only when they have DKA or when they've gone back to their GP over and over again. So we want our community to help us to rewrite that story. And in doing so, we have two main campaigns to help raise the awareness around early diagnosis. One is our 40s campaign, which is a campaign to raise awareness around the 4 main symptoms of type 1 diabetes. So being thin, going to toilet, people being, and also people being tired. So these symptoms, we want our community to help us to raise awareness so that people who may have it will seek medical attention as soon as possible, because we know that early diagnosis can save life, but also can help us to reduce some of the life-changing complications that are associated with diabetes. Key to that, today as World Diabetes Day, we are announcing a major study that we are co-funding with co-funding with JDRF, and the study is a study to be able to screen people who are at a higher risk of developing type 1 diabetes. We know that before people develop the condition, they will have some markers in their blood that we can test, which show us that they are on their way to getting the condition. If we are able to screen them well, and this one we are doing it with children between the ages of 3 and 13. If we are successful in screening people well, what we would do would be to provide them with ongoing support, but also what to do when they develop those symptoms. And key to that, those people will receive a test every 6 months, so that when they do go on to develop diabetes, it wouldn't be when they develop DKA, because at the moment in UK, quarter, which we think shouldn't be on at all. And the second campaign is also around the risk factors of type 2 diabetes. So again, we are asking our community to help us to encourage people to risk assess themselves. We are hoping that between now and next year, we'll be able to encourage 1 million people to check their risk of developing type 2 diabetes, because we know that when people are able to check their risk and we are able to give them the necessary support to reduce their risk, we know that the numbers of people getting diagnosed will go down. So those are the two key activities that we are asking our community to help us raise awareness around.
Thank you, Douglas. That's quite so. Two major campaigns on this day throughout the UK on screening and on early risk factors. Screening for type 1 diabetes risk is, of course, a relatively new approach. In science, it's quite proven, but rolling it out is quite new. Screening for type 2 diabetes and risk factors that can lead to type 2 diabetes has been established for quite a while. We do something very similar here in Germany, and we'll have it on our website for the German World Diabetes Day, Weltdiabetestag.de. We have a campaign called Unerkannt unterwegs, Living Undetected, which does a very simple multiple choice test, basically, which screens your overall risk and then gives you specific recommendations. So great to see that Diabetes UK is, in this regard, also leading the way, screening for risk factors so that both type 1 and type 2 can be diagnosed early on, because early detection helps save lives. Douglas, I'm just summing this up a little bit because your connection was breaking in between. But last words from the UK. How are you celebrating, and what is the main topic you think will be important for people living with diabetes in the UK next year?
So for next year, there have been a lot of discussions around health inequalities. So what economy, how it's affecting people, because our insight tells us that people are deprioritizing their health because of economic reasons. So we think that next year, things that we need to really work on is how care can be equitable across board so that people can have access to good care. But also there's some conversation around stigma that is associated with diabetes. We think that we can team up with our community and healthcare professionals to reduce the stigma that is associated with diabetes, because we don't think anybody with diabetes should be stigmatized.
That I can very much agree with, and there's a lot of discussions going on in the online community, not only on the DDoC hashtag, but in general about stigma and how to fight it in type 2, in type 1, all over the place. It is becoming a more and more important topic, and it's also an important topic for our next speaker, I know. Douglas, thank you very much for joining us live from London on behalf of Diabetes UK on this special day. So we went from Berlin to Athens, from Brussels to Lisbon, from Sofia to London. We've covered quite a bit of Europe. It's time to go international now. And for that, to kick it off, it is my great honor to welcome our second corporate partner of this special day. It is Sanofi. And I am greeting Nadia, Ait-Aissa, and Iker, who will join us in just a moment. But let's start with Nadia. Welcome to Dog Day, Nadia.
Thank you, Iker. Thank you, Bastian. Sorry. Very happy to be here today on behalf of Sanofi to celebrate the World Diabetes Day and to talk a little bit about access to education, because as you know, it's one of the main themes for the World Diabetes Day for 2022, but also for 2023. It means that if we want to be effective with education, we need to have a long-term approach. And this is where we believe that companies such as Sanofi can help to bring education across the world in order to help and improve life of people living with diabetes. And that's a very important message that we wanted to convene and to share with you today. And we are very proud to join the diabetes community today to celebrate, but also, as I said, to recognize the importance of access to education for people living with diabetes, as we know that access to education is critical for people affected by this condition, as well as for healthcare provider and their caregivers.
And Nadia, before you continue, let me just to continue this tradition of moving around the world. Can you tell us where you're dialing in from?
Sorry, that's very important. I'm dialing from France, from Paris. So
of course, I could tell by your accent, but I was just making sure because Miray was actually in Athens, although I know she lives somewhere else. But just making sure we keep the tradition of getting voices from around Europe and around the world. But coming back to your topic, access to education, can you tell us what exactly Sanofi is doing to supporting not only access to diabetes care, but to education specifically, as you singled that out?
Yeah, and thank you for this, Bastian, because it allowed me to echo what Elisabeth was saying earlier, that there is a need to raise awareness of diabetes for all population, including the underserved population, through this access to education. And this is why in Sanofi, we are developing several programs that are intended to support people living with diabetes with type 1 and type 2 of all ages, in order to better understand their condition and improve their self-management. And when we talk about education, I mean, what can be better and more efficient than starting the education at early stage, meaning at school? And one of our flagship programs in Sanofi is the KIDS program that we have developed in partnership with IDF and the ISPAD. And we have Joao from Portugal with us today, and Joao has played an important role in the KIDS program and raised the flag of the KIDS program at several occasions. And just to remind that the aim of this KIDS program is to fight against diabetes stigma. We heard from the colleague from Diabetes UK how important it is to fight the stigma. And this program, the KIDS program, is really about that, fighting the diabetes stigma at school and promote, of course, healthy living lifestyle and try to tackle the preventable risk factors of type 2. So I said at the beginning that education is a long-term commitment, and this KIDS program is an example of long-term commitment. We started this program with IDF and the ISPAD in 2013, so it's already 10 years. But with 10 years, what we have been able to do is that, and thanks to IDF and ISPAD strong commitment to introduce the KIDS program in over 2,100 schools that has been trained across several countries worldwide. This corresponds to an engagement of more than 340,000 children and almost 20,000 teachers around 45 countries. So I think that
20,000 teachers and 330,000 kids. That's amazing.
And yeah, and the numbers speak by itself. And the beauty of this program, in addition, is that it uses different educational resources that has been developed and translated into more than 15 languages so that it can be understood easily at school by the children, by the schools, by the parents. So we have the Hindu version, the Polish version, the Arabic version, the Chinese version, and all those contents are aligned with the WHO recommendation.
And it speaks to what Joao was saying in the beginning, that it's so important to have materials not only available in English, but in local languages, because otherwise they will definitely not reach the kids and also many others who might not be available to speak English all the time.
Absolutely, Bastian. And that's, I think, one of the beauty of this program is to have been able to work on that translation, because education goes with languages, and we have to go through that one. And one other point that I would like to highlight for this program is that this program has received 2 awards, one in Poland and one in India. And if you want to learn more about this program, you can go on the website for IDF under idf.org and under the kids program section, and you will find all the relevant information that you would like to have. I would like to conclude by saying that the program is currently ongoing. Mm-hmm. There are 3 new countries that are about to launch the kids program. It's Algeria, Qatar, and Colombia. So already when I speak about those 3 countries, you can see the spread of the program. And I would like to take the opportunity to thank warmly the IDF and the ISPAT for their engagement to make this happen with the support of local association, government, and local NGO for some of the country. And this is, of course, just one of our commitment to diabetes. And we acknowledge also that there are much more to do to ensure that everyone has access to education and better understand their own disease. And this is why we are looking forward to the future and continue our effort on educational effort and program to protect the future. And you will hear more a little bit of it from my colleague Iker in a few seconds.
It fits very well with this year's topic for World Diabetes Day, education to protect tomorrow. So thank you for bringing this program that Sanofi has been supporting, as you said, for a decade now, to our attention. I may be a bit biased, as I myself, of course, am a member of the IDF board, but I've seen the impact it makes. So thank you very much, Nadia. And with that, as you were just saying, thank you for joining us. And let's bring your colleague to the stage very quickly. Iker Mille from Sanofi as well. Can you tell me, like I asked all the others, A, where you're dialing in from, and then what does World Diabetes Day mean to you personally and to your company, to Sanofi?
Thank you, Bastian, and thank you for everyone that's joining us today. And really honored to be part of this celebration. So I'm also, as Nadia, I'm calling in from Paris. But I have to say that my heart is Mexican. I was born there, and I was very happy when I saw Diego Rivera behind Nadia, one of the most prominent Mexican painters. So Mexico, Paris is kind of like a bit connected here. And I think for me, it's actually quite a special day, not only because I think as part of Sanofi, we have a chance to work around diabetes. We have a chance to interact with people like you and the data community and healthcare professionals and payers and journalists, all really interested around diabetes, which is always fascinating, but also because we truly have a chance to help through the medications that we manufacture, but most importantly also align with this year's theme, the part of education. And I think one of the things that I really enjoy the most is I work in the central office, in the headquarter office for Sanofi. But as you can imagine, not only across Europe, but basically across any major country in the world, we have offices where then we can also collaborate with those countries and say, hey, how can we go and support your local patient association? What about the trade organizations who might not have as many resources, as much heritage and knowledge? Sanofi has been around in diabetes for nearly 100 years. We're one of the first movers. You can trace Sanofi's heritage back to 1923 when insulin manufacturing really started. So that is how much knowledge it is kind of like hosted between these four walls and all the people working here. So we are very, very proud. It's always a huge thing. I can tell you the team here is very excited. As you can imagine, we have our own internal things around World Diabetes Day. But how we are celebrating externally is joining or aligning with the theme that IDF has brought. It's not a surprise that the IDF program that Nadia was beautifully explaining, we really wanted to make this the centerpiece of our communications this year. And of course, the number sounds impressive. 40 countries, over 300,000 kids, but you could say we could always do more. And also one of the things we really like to do this year is to say, hey, the kids program is fantastic. The materials are evolving, but a lot of things have been done over the last 9, soon to be 10 years. So we thought that by putting this program in the center, hopefully we could reach even more countries who might not be aware of the program or who might not have decided to jump in and say, well, why don't we roll this program in the UK? Why don't we do it back home in Mexico and those kind of things? So very, very proud that through a multi-social media campaign, so you can check through our different channels, we're really trying to engage with the community, with IDF, and of course with our partners in ISPAD to get kids known a little bit better, because we truly, truly believe that access to education is one of the most critical points. And just connected with this, we are very committed to this cause. And I just wanted to, Bastian, if you allow me to give the community a bit of a hint, we recently concluded a survey that we run in Europe, so it's very, very relevant for most of your audience here, where we interviewed a bunch, over 500 adults living with type 1 diabetes, and some some caregivers of kids with type 1. Because we truly believe that if we want to be really supportive, which is one of our missions, we need to understand as much of the condition as we can. So I don't want to say too much about this survey. We just wanted to say that results are really interesting. It is very, very centered on the physiological burden, but also on the psychological burden of living with type 1 diabetes. And I know we're working on something, really happy about those initiatives too. Just to your audience and to the group here, stay tuned, because we are planning on bringing something next year around this survey, which is yet another thing that we are very proud of, that fits everything we do here in Sanofi.
Iker, thank you very much. You're spoiling the fun a little bit because it's something that is forthcoming, but I can of course only echo that. Stay tuned on all the Sanofi channels, but also hopefully on the DDoC channels, because we've been getting a bit of a sneak preview and we're thinking about maybe joining in when the results of this survey will be released, hopefully early next year. Iker, thank you very much. Thank you for bringing this double focus of education and kids to the attention once more as well. Because it was mentioned, ISPAD, for those that don't know what that stands for, it's the International Society for Pediatric and Adolescent Diabetes. So for the children and young adults living with diabetes, and this is why it has been mentioned, they have been working with Sanofi and with IDF on this kids program and on some other initiative. Iker, thank you very much for joining from Paris, but Mexican at heart. And that actually fits very well for our next speaker. Again, thank you, Iker, thank you, Nadia, for supporting Doc Day, for supporting World Diabetes Day, the kids program, and so much more. And talking about Iker being Mexican at heart, I now welcome Lucy to the stage, and we will continue our tour around the globe now after doing this European song contest before. Lucy, you are similar to Iker. Iker is living in Paris, but Mexican at heart. You live in Spain now, but you've spent the last couple of years in Argentina. So I'm not quite sure whether I should say Lucy from Argentina or Lucy from Spain, but welcome to Doc Day.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, as you all know, I am a diabetes activist, and yes, I represent Argentina and Spain as a Blue Circle voice for IDF. I am a DDoC voice, and I think it is really important that we all work together. So it is good to talk about all countries, because no matter where we are, we all live with diabetes, to have the same needs, and must work together. for sure.
And again, bridging between Europe and Latin America, and bridging between the international organizations. You mentioned the Blue Circle Voices program of the IDF and the DDoC Voices program that you are a member of. Love it. Can you tell us maybe more on the Argentinian focus, because we want to leave Europe now, and I would love to hear what's happening in Latin America. What is World Diabetes Day? What does it mean to you, coming from Argentina, having lived in Argentina? What are the main topics being discussed these days?
Well, first of all, World Diabetes Day means personally a celebration of life, because we wouldn't be here celebrating World Diabetes Day if insulin wasn't discovered 100 years ago. So first of all, a celebration and something to be grateful for. And in the second place, it's an opportunity to work for other people, raise awareness about our health condition and improve lives. So it's a great opportunity. In Argentina, we have different events and campaigns that are being held by associations, and they are different, but mainly initiatives by different local and regional associations in different parts of the country.
And what is the main topic this day? What would you consider the most important aspect of what people in Argentina are raising awareness for with their diabetes associations towards the government?
Well, access to treatment is always a key claim and key message that we need our insulin and our supplies in order to survive, to be alive. So that's always something very important also these days. And in Argentina, there is a diabetes law, but it isn't always complied with, because it needs a lot of information. It needs a development legislation that is not out there yet when it should. And also other topics have been brought to the table, such as seeing the person, not just the diabetes. We are people living with diabetes, not diabetes living with a person, if that makes sense.
That relates to the Language Matters movement, and I know it's been a great paper published for the Spanish language. We, by the way, in Germany, just a couple of days ago, released the first German, or the first Language Matters position paper for the German language, not only for Germany, but for all the other countries as well, where German is being spoken. So yes, congratulations on that. You beat us to that, but it's great also that it's available for so many countries where Spanish is, of course, the main language. But I want to get back to one point you said. You said access to diabetes treatment is one of the main things in Argentina. So I guess that also shows that the economic crisis, I know, has hit your country and all of Latin America quite hard. So it's moving back a little bit, where maybe education is something that is, of course, super important, peer support, psychological support, etc. But when the economic situation and the healthcare system is being shaken, then it goes back to the more basic needs, maybe, which is the treatment itself. Is that right?
Absolutely. Besides, having access to technology in Argentina, it's still a luxury despite the law. I think I heard about a study some years ago comparing Argentina to Germany. In Germany, something like 98% of people with type 1 diabetes could have access to technology to treat their condition, while in Argentina, it was something like the 2% of the total of the people. And it's a really big country, and well, that should not happen.
Yes, I guess it depends a little bit on which parts of technology you're looking at. If you're looking at simple blood glucose measuring tools, or CGM on the other end of the spectrum, or insulin pumps. But of course, in Germany, the healthcare system is working quite well, and I can imagine the situation is much different in Argentina.
Anyway, you are our model, and we want to get there at some point.
Well, reach out, and as much as support we can give, especially through peer support and through the community. This is what we're doing through the DDoC Voices, and thank you for being part of that.
Thank you.
Lucy, thank you very much. Thank you for reporting from Spain now, but talking about the country where you spent the last couple of years, from Argentina. And we will continue our tour. Thank you, Lucy. We will continue and move to a country where I am sure access in general is a big issue. Let me welcome Mohammed Seyam. Mohammed.
Oh, hello. Thank you so
Mohammed,
much, Bastian.
you are joining us from Gaza, from Palestine, from the Palestinian territories. It's great to see you here. You're sitting in front of your amazing wall, which I've been admiring a couple of times every time we meet on Zoom. We actually just met a couple of weeks ago for the first time face-to-face. Great to have you here. And let me kick it off with the same question. World Diabetes Day in Palestine, in Gaza, is that being celebrated at all? How do you celebrate it? And what are the issues for people living with diabetes in your region, in your country?
Okay, well, thank you so much for giving me the platform to speak. First of all, of course, we all know that diabetes is and has always been a challenge to everyone affected directly or indirectly by it. And of course, it's an extra burden for those dealing with it and challenging communities and countries, of course, such as Palestine. Celebrating World Diabetes Day is a great deal for all of us in the diabetes community, as it is the day that we highlight and raise the point on the 24/7 routine that we go through. We advocate, we raise awareness and enjoy, and of course, support each other. In Gaza, to be more specific, we do celebrate World Diabetes Day. Healthcare providers, the Ministry of Health and other NGOs gather around for an event each year to highlight the healthcare situations and the actions that are being taken, and of course the challenges that we go through. Those kinds of events are mostly screening events and a gathering for doctors and policymakers, decision makers, to talk about this, to talk about diabetes. But I think a problem that I'm always highlighting to them is that we need more involvement for people living with diabetes in such events. And I've been getting some response, to be honest, but not the response that we wait for. Other companies, banks, for example, organizations celebrate it by only posting on social media, showing their support for people living with diabetes, which is kind of what happens all around. For me personally, I'm part of a medical student association here in Gaza. It's an international association, but here locally we do a lot of campaigns throughout the past few years where we try to support people living with diabetes in different ways. We raise awareness in big malls, for example, and of course on social media. We do screening campaigns. We do school visits, and thanks to Sanofi and the International Diabetes Federation, we use the kids' materials and do school visits, and it helps a lot. So many thanks for them. And yeah, a major part of my role in those campaigns is I educate medical students on diabetes, because we do not have diabetes educators, and it's a problem. It's a major problem here in the healthcare system. So medical students are the future unutilized army of the healthcare system. So they need to learn more about diabetes. And I guess it's all the impact of having a type 1 diabetic in med school, and how things can change just because of an idea that I could bring. But yeah, personally, this year I'm not doing that much. It's all about support. It's all about keeping it light a little bit, and yeah, support every action happening on social media and locally. And something that I do regularly is that I wear my diabetes proudly. I'm wearing my it's a new hoodie, so I'm enjoying it a lot this year. And yeah, we support each other to grow, and that's what's happening.
With the new hoodie in honor of World Diabetes Day, I love it. But Mohammed, can I also ask you, for people living with diabetes in Palestine, what are the core issues right now? I can imagine that access to education, you mentioned that, and you mentioned the kids program, but I can imagine that also access to basic care is and remains and will remain to be an issue.
Of course. Well, mainly, it's not only in Gaza, it's all around the world. Access to education is a problem, and it's something that we're advocating for the upcoming few years. But recently, the major topic was, as you mentioned, access to basic diabetes supplies and care. Throughout the past few years, or to be exercised, it's about the last 2 years, we worked very hard to get insulin analogs available for free. So before that, we used to have a lot of problems with availability and affordability, mentioning a lot of the problems and challenges people face, such as the poverty and the unemployment rates that are skyrocketing here. Following the attacks on during May 2021 on the Gaza Strip, we tried as much as we can with international organizations, with a lot of support locally and internationally, to get insulin analogs available for free for everybody living with diabetes around Palestine. And it's something that's been helping people living with diabetes a lot, and taking off some of the burden of living with diabetes in the country that they're having. Patient advocacy.
I hear from that you succeeded in that. You succeeded through your advocacy work.
Insulin analogs are now available for everybody living with diabetes. Whenever you want, you can go to a primary healthcare clinic and get your insulin. Sometimes we face some drop-offs because a lot of the supplies rely on donations when it comes to the Ministry of Health. But of course, now it's November. They're restocking again, and things are looking very well for the next year. And I believe it's all about patient advocacy, how our voices can be heard, and how we are the cornerstone of everything that could happen or work for diabetes, and how meaningful involvement can actually move things and change things for people not only around my country, but around the globe.
And Mohammed, you are our first and so far only DDoC voice from Palestine. I hope this will change in the future. Maybe you can root for some more. But tell me, if you were to look back to World Diabetes Day this year from next year, what is the main things that you will be advocating for next year, and what would mean that this year, the coming year, will have been successful for you, for people living with diabetes?
You've already mentioned that a major part of what I try to do is to help people living with diabetes in my country to speak up, to be part of any movement that is happening, and to join amazing programs such as the DDoC Voices, for example, so they could be part of the whole international community and the whole support around the globe that would help them to actually create more and more effect on the diabetes situation locally. Another main topic that I'm eager to help with in my country and maybe around the region is education. I'm a doctor myself. I aspire to be an endocrinologist. My whole life is about diabetes, and I try as much as I can to educate people. And I want education to be spread all around, and not only the community, but also the healthcare system, because we lack educators, and the community has a lot of problems when it comes to awareness and stigma and discrimination towards people living with diabetes. So that is something that I'm looking forward to create an impact on for this year, for the next year, and hopefully for the next World Diabetes Day, we look forward to see an improvement in that, in the whole world, not only here in Gaza.
Wonderful. Mohammed, thank you very much for joining us live from Gaza, from this wonderful backdrop wall behind you that's full of diabetes memes and cards and logos. Wonderful to see you, and hope to see you again very, very soon.
Thank you
Mohammed
so much.
Seyam from Gaza City. We are continuing to stay in countries where access really is a challenge, and we're moving to India. And it is my great honor to welcome Jazz Sethi to this stage. Jazz, you are super active with your organization, with your foundation, helping especially children, again, fitting the discussion we've had so far about education, the kids program, what Mohammed was saying. Tell us a little bit about what is happening, not only in your organization, but in general in India on World Diabetes Day and on November 14th. How is it being celebrated in such a huge country?
Firstly, namaste, good evening, and thank you, Bastian. I'm always so inspired by DDoC and all the voices, and I'm so happy to call myself a DDoC voice. And a very happy World Diabetes Day to everyone who is celebrating. For all of us, it is Diabetes Day every single day. But I think today marks a very special day to commemorate Dr. Banting and the gift of life that he has given us. and to celebrate that gift, and most importantly, to advocate for that gift. And as you asked, I think in India today, I have seen so many of my fellow colleagues and friends trying to do their bit in trying to raise the profile of diabetes in India, whether that is, going for diabetes runs or diabetes walks. At our foundation, every Sunday we've been having meetups and, diabetes support group networks, but also launching a lot of resources that can help people, and in keeping with the theme that everyone has talked about. And I think I think anyone who knows me knows how passionate I am about diabetes education. So launching resources and guides that can help people all over the country, whether it is urban or rural, in different languages, to really be able to internalize those messages and take care of themselves a little better.
And Jazz, same question. What is next to educate? I think our viewers have understood by now that we've been cheating a little bit when putting up the agenda, that because the topic this year is access to not only diabetes care, but access to diabetes education, we have invited a number of speakers who have a specific focus on that, and you just brought it up by yourself. But what is the main thing that has been going on this year that is on your agenda in India? I can only fathom how difficult it must be to bring with your organization, but in general, a country that is so huge, so many languages, so many different sects. So there might not be one answer, I don't know. And also what's coming up for the year to come as your major challenges and topics in advocacy.
Right. So like I said, I think for the theme of this year, keeping in with IDF, education has been fundamental. Access to insulin, I think, will always be a theme. No matter what the other themes are, the fundamental theme will always be access to life-saving medication, which we are working on constantly. Education has been a very, very prominent theme for the past year, the years before that. And I think, again, that will stay constant for the years to come as well. And not just education for the people living with the condition, but also education for caregivers, education for healthcare professionals as well, in terms of language and in terms of just how to deal with people living with the condition, how to deal with people living with the condition from varied backgrounds, varied religions, varied economic statuses. So that's been the theme. But I think the theme for next year, what we're really looking forward to is, at least in India, I can speak very confidently about India. I don't know how it is like in the rest of the world, but people with diabetes don't know their rights. And that's a theme that we're focusing on next year, whether it is right to a second opinion, right to insulin, right to research, right to carry their equipments into an examination hall if they're in school, right to not be discriminated in a workplace. I think because we're such a huge country, people don't know what they have the rights to, their constitutional rights. Mm-hmm. So in fact, at the end of the month, we are launching a list of rights for people living with the condition, but we really want to focus on that next year. And the rights that we don't currently have, which we think we should have, we want to be working on policy for that next year. And just to continue with that theme, we really want to focus on women and their rights, because as a country, we do lack a little bit of rights with women and in general, and then add on to that diabetes, and it's not a very good state for women in the country. So we want to focus on rights as a person living with a chronic condition, and then also focus on people who are women and their rights with this condition, whether it is to do with marriage, to do with divorce, to do with just children. I think in India, the problem that we face is people knowing their rights. They don't know it, so they can't advocate for it. So to make people aware that they have these rights, I think that's going to be the theme for next year.
Thank you, Jess. And you just saw a comment from one of our other DDoC voices here, saying that he resonates with what you're saying about the rights-based approach in advocacy related to not only women, but diabetes and women in diabetes specifically and in general. Love the fact that you're putting rights and diabetes together. By the way, we talked about Life for a Child before. They do amazing advocacy work on a human rights-based approach to advocacy in diabetes. It's wonderful. I'm sure you've seen it. I'm sure you've maybe even participated in one of their workshops. But I just want to bring it to the attention here of the audience. Life for a Child, the organization we've talked about in the beginning, they have an amazing toolkit out there, translated in different languages, about a human rights-based approach to advocacy in diabetes that is really helpful and worth checking out. And they run workshops on that as well. Just amazing topic you're bringing forward. And I like the fact that there's some comments coming in now. Everybody on Facebook who's following on Facebook right now can put in questions or comments, and sometimes they find their way here. So we just saw a bit of that. Jess, what's the main thing you are doing today, or you did do today? Because I think in India, World Diabetes Day is pretty much over. I don't know what time it is where you are right now, but it's coming to the end of the day now, right?
Yes.
So what was the main thing you were doing? I do see you wearing blue, which is what we all do to show solidarity for the work, for the advocacy work around World Diabetes Day. What's the main thing you've been doing?
So, like I said, I think every Sunday, because today is a Monday in India at least, it's become Monday, but every Sunday we're running meetups. Today, in fact, we launched a diabetes starter kit that we want clinicians to adopt. So we're working with clinicians all over the country that if they get a person who's recently diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, we want them to give them this starter kit, which has resources, which has peer support networks, which has comic books, and just make them feel like they have a buddy with them. They have a bestie with them, and they're not alone in this. So that's what we've launched today. More things coming up at the end of the month, but of course, the work always stays on. Like I said, every day is Diabetes Day for us.
Jess, I think that's a wonderful close to your presentation. Jess Sethi from India, you said you wanted people to have a bestie from the Diabetes Foundation in India. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for telling us what's happening in India and what is becoming important, especially that rights-based approach to diabetes and diabetes care. Thank you, Jess. Quite a tour de force we're having here around the globe, but this is what's happening on World Diabetes Day. We want to be able to show what's happening in different areas in the world. And with that, it is my great honor to welcome Sarah Biyinzika to the stage from Uganda. Sarah, I apologize if I didn't pronounce your last name. Let's just stick to Sarah, right? Great to have you here. Wonderful to see you. Sarah, tell us, how are you celebrating World Diabetes Day in Uganda?
First of all, I want to say thank you for having me. I'm very excited for the platform. World Diabetes Day in Uganda, we had a number of events yesterday and today. And one of them today, I was honored to host it by my member association, Uganda Diabetes Association. And it was focusing on diabetes education for patients to enable them manage diabetes better, and also education on diabetes complications, as well as free screening for diabetes complications. So one of the things we have in Uganda that we struggle with mostly is access to quality diabetes care. Very few Ugandans are able to follow the annual screenings, like checking the eyes, foot, dental. So what the organization did was offer free screening for all patients living with diabetes. Personally, I've had type 1 diabetes for 15 years, and in those 15 years, I've not been able to actually screen for any complication, mainly because of the cost. It costs a lot of money, which most patients can't afford. For instance, the eye screening is something like 50 euros, which might seem very little to others, but in Uganda, it's a lot of money. So for a patient, this was a great opportunity for patients to actually come and do free screening, not just for the eyes, but for their teeth as well, and their feet, and free education sessions, especially on nutrition. Most of the things we struggle with managing diabetes is lack of adequate diabetes education and nutrition. Most patients, especially with type 2, don't know the amounts of food, what to eat, and that really causes a lot of problems in managing their day-to-day diabetes. They struggle with that. So being able to provide that today was really amazing. Another event we had was yesterday, and it was focused on diabetes education, mostly for health professionals. We recently had an issue where one of our brothers died due to misdiagnosis. He was admitted in hospital for almost a week and diagnosed with ulcers. Sadly, it was DKA, and by the time they diagnosed him, he died shortly after that. And this is an issue that's been going on for a while. So it was very important to have an event where we create more awareness about diabetes for health professionals. How do they tell that someone has type 1? Because this is information you would think is readily available in hospitals, but sadly most health professionals actually aren't aware of the signs and symptoms to watch out for when a patient comes in hospital with diabetes. So those are some of the events we had and some of the main focuses that we had between yesterday and today.
Well, first of all, Sarah, I'm very sorry for your loss. I didn't know that. Sorry to hear that one of your colleagues died. But also, I want to say I love how you take the global topic of access to diabetes education, which you're perfectly right. In our context, in the more Western context, that is meant proper education for people living with diabetes. But then, as we were saying, and this is why we're doing this Global Doc Day, where we bring perspectives from all over the world together, I love how you say you, with your organization in Uganda, you've taken that and adapted it so that it's better fitting for your context, because you say, you notice that the main part of education that is lacking is maybe with the healthcare providers. If they can't diagnose in time a DKA, a type 1 induced DKA, then maybe it is necessary to start there. I think that's very fitting, and I like how these topics, although they're being set on a very global level by IDF, mean different things and are being then applied through member associations in very different ways in different settings in different countries. I would also like to go to what you were saying about this first event, the free screening. It's if I understand correctly, it is 50 euros that you have to pay out of pocket to get an examination like this, and your organization, at least, I'm sure you can't take over the whole healthcare system, right? But on this specific day, you go out and you have events and bring a bit of education, but also real relief and care to your community. That is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I ask you, like I asked all the others, looking forward, what do you think will be the main things that you will be working on in 2023 with your organization, you personally, looking at the situation of people living with diabetes in Uganda, in your country?
So I'm so lucky to work with a patient-led foundation as well, called Africa Diabetes Alliance. Its main focus is on diabetes education, and we've passionately been advocating for that for a longest time. And when I had the theme of this year for World Diabetes Day, I was very excited, because this is a big gap in Uganda for many of us. Personally, before I joined the support group, I really struggled with my own management. And when I joined, they used to have, and they still have, these what we call the book challenges, where all of us pick a book, a diabetes book, and we choose a chapter that we read and then summarize for all the other members. And this challenge has helped all of us to actually become more involved in our own self-management, as well as have the right knowledge about how to manage diabetes. For instance, my HbA1c was 14 2 years ago. And when I joined the organization, in only a few months, I'd taken it down to a 5.9. So diabetes education is still something that we need to advocate for in Uganda. There's so many patients that don't know how to manage. They actually lack the adequate information to manage diabetes. So that's still a big gap that needs to be filled, especially in schools as well. I got diabetes when I was in my secondary school, and some of the things I struggled with were the nurses at school, they weren't educated about diabetes, and I found a very hard time. I was a kid and they were the adults, but I couldn't rely on them because they actually lacked the proper information to best support me. And we wanted to do the school awareness campaign, but then COVID happened and it slowed down most of that. But we are hoping we can actually do it next year as well to protect children living with diabetes in schools. The other thing is we want to actually advocate for universal health coverage as well. That's something we passionately want to advocate for because there's a need for that. We've been fortunate to have programs in Uganda that do provide free diabetes medical supplies, especially for young children. But these programs like changing diabetes in children, they have a certain period, a certain age. So when you reach that age, you can't access the program anymore because the capacity they have isn't enough for everyone. So once you're that age, it means you're paying out of your pocket, and this is very, very expensive. You find something as small as a vial of like $2 is still something very, very expensive for a Ugandan. And then they start missing insulin, and then they get all these complications because they don't have the money to actually buy these supplies. They can't check themselves. They don't have the money for, let's say, the test kits because they're very expensive, and sometimes they're not even available in the pharmacies. So having a universal health coverage, not just for diabetes, but all NCDs is something we want to passionately advocate for next year.
All right. Sarah, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for educating us and educating this audience out there about World Diabetes Day and what it means for people living with diabetes in Uganda and what you and your organization are doing about this. I love what you were talking about education and how it helped you better manage your own diabetes and your own diabetes management. Your HbA1c, by the way, is better than mine. And it shows that knowledge is so powerful, you know, regarding next to all the treatment and the access and the technology. Respect, I'm impressed.
Thank you.
Sarah, thank you very much for joining us, representing Uganda and the Ugandan Diabetes Association here on DDoG's Doc Day on World Diabetes Day. Greetings to
Thank you very much for having me.
With that, we are probably almost coming to our last speaker because Elena Frattolin, who was supposed to join us from Italy, I just hear is probably not going to able to make it. That's but there is a message from her. She is still on the train. I'm going to read it out to everyone. Hello to everyone. It's great to be able to follow Doc Day traveling from Rome to Naples by train. We had a World Diabetes Day event at the Senate Press Room in Rome today, and we'll have 2 more events tomorrow in Naples and then in Rome again, still following DDoG Voices activities. This is Elena. She was supposed to join us live here on Doc Day, but apparently she is still on the train. Apparently she's able to watch, but probably not from a train traveling through the country of Italy. She's probably not able to join us here in the studio, which is very sad, but Elena, I hope to be able to welcome you some other time. Having said that, it is then now official. We are coming to our last speaker of the day. We're staying in Africa. This is Saleh Hendricks joining us from South Africa. Saleh, can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly, Bastian. Thanks, Bastian.
Wonderful. Saleh, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Very tired because of all the preparations for the month of diabetes. And there was lots of preparations before we could actually go and do things for the 14th of November.
Well, then tell us, what have you been up to? What have you been preparing for? What have you been doing? What is South Africa in general? What is happening in your country on the 14th of November this year?
Okay, the preparations for the 14th runs where different organizations get approached via the media, and they actually look for advocates to actually speak about the lived experience. And this is a topic which has been widely accepted now since last year, the lived experience. And so we actually prepare ourselves like we do for the live shows of DDoC and the DDoC Day. And I've been on a lot of shows from, you can say, from the beginning of November. And one of the shows that I was actually on was called Vital Signs, which is a health program. And I was one of the speakers, and we had the health minister as well from South Africa on the show. And the question that was actually asked, what is government doing for diabetes? And because of this, you know, South Africa is very complex, where if they budget for a certain, for example, if they budget for NCDs, diabetes falls under NCDs. And if the money is needed elsewhere, they would actually take it away from health. So this is one of the problems that we've actually got. And the other thing is the preparations with different organizations. They will actually have different, for example, they will have a picnic day. Lots of the organizations actually celebrated over the weekend because today is actually a normal working day. And so they had, which they call the picnic day. I was actually helping with a conference over this weekend that we actually prepared for the screening of diabetes. And it was actually a success. It was running from Friday, Saturday, yesterday, and today. And these things are actually joyous, where we're doing screening on people that don't actually understand diabetes. And I had to give a little bit of talks. And again, that is where the education actually comes in of diabetes. The saddest part from everything was Saturday, when I approached the T1D moms with their children and asking them, do you understand what Diabetes Day is? And all of them actually said, we don't know.
Oh.
And this was the saddest part of this weekend, that they are diabetic and they don't know what Diabetes Day or the preparations for awareness on diabetes. So I know what your next question could be is, what is forth for 2023? And a lot of things has actually come up where education is important. We've got the problem where it's not only the education, but it's the feeding, as Sarah was speaking about. Families that don't actually have enough to sustain themselves. So running forth into 2023, we discussed, because we had this conference on the multidisciplinaries, which was actually helping us with the screening. And the program for 2023 is education, self-sustainable families, the programs of open day workshops to educate the children. So it is running with 2023 with steam ahead, because they're losing out, not being educated. And the saddest part is what we are actually, or what we tried in the past here in South Africa has actually failed, but there is hope to actually carry on, to actually move forward into a positive direction of complications with diabetes. I mean, I'm actually a person with lots of complications. And them seeing me in front of them with a prosthetic leg, you know, what happened, you know? And just sitting down and actually explaining to them that don't think what I'm going to say, that diabetes is going to be a monster. It is something that you can live with. And the lived experience is actually the best to actually
And
to spread education.
Saleh, you are a powerhouse when it comes to inspiring hope and inspiring people living with diabetes, having diabetes, to move forward and to not give up. Even if you're saying you were yourself a bit sad about, people maybe not knowing about World Diabetes Day. I mean, yes, there's still a lot of work to be done. And, World Diabetes Day is, on the other hand, is just a symbol and a day. More important is the work on the ground. And I know some of the amazing initiatives that you have been driving, you together with other DDoC voices, other advocates, your Diabetes Association. I mean, just the fact that you managed to get on national TV and get the Minister of Health there, I think that is quite amazing. And hopefully that will make a difference, because that is a voice that carries weight, and hopefully it will move on from there to change policies and change law and better the situation for people living with diabetes in your country. What are you looking forward to for next year, Saleh? You mentioned a lot looking back and looking at what you have been doing now, but for next year, what's the main, if you were to single out one thing that you want to work on, that you want to change in 2023, what would it be?
What came from all the discussions and what I've learned, it's not the passion on what I've actually been through. For the next, you can say 4 to 5 months, we will be trying to raise a conference workshop type of environment in April, which we will again be concentrating on diabetes. And because April being Limb Loss Day, month, we're actually trying to get a lot of the multidisciplinary companies where to actually come on this conference, and maybe actually getting different companies that actually supports diabetes also on board, so that we want to launch this in a way of educating people to the best that we can actually do. So this is 2023, where it is more of awareness in a different strategy of actually approaching people. And what I've actually started already was the home visits, and I know Elena was actually speaking about this, and where they actually go out to people, and Andrea as well, the other DDoC voice, is actually having one-on-one talks with families, and it's actually working, Bastian. It's just to be in their homes, to see their environments. So
this is something that the official, the normal healthcare system barely manages to do, and this is where peer support and community and diabetes associations and individuals like you and your community that you've built around you come in so strong, because this grassroots that we've talked about in the very beginning with the Joao from Portugal, these small initiatives and individuals, and everybody who was speaking here today at Doc Day is part of that and should be proud. It's so important that we stand up for ourselves, be it with a rights-based approach to advocating for diabetes, be it through training and education, be it what Jazz was talking about in her diabetes kids camps she's running in India, be it what you are talking about now and what you're hoping to build for next year. It's wonderful.
Okay.
Saleh,
that's all.
I wish you a wonderful rest World Diabetes Day all the way down in South Africa. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for making the time. We've had an amazing first half of this Doc Day. We've now had the more global part of Doc Day, where we went from Spain/Argentina to Palestine, from India to Uganda, and now ended up in South Africa. Unfortunately, again, we're missing out on Elena, who was supposed to join us from Italy as our last speaker, but she sends her regards, as you saw before, with her message. So Saleh, thank you very much. And we are close to coming to the end of Doc Day, to the end of the special edition of Doc Day on World Diabetes Day. Before we do close this, I would like to thank IDF Europe for co-hosting this event with us. IDF Europe and Elisabeth Dupont, who was joining us earlier to talk about the new diabetes resolution that is hopefully going to be discussed and passed in European Parliament next week, Monday and Tuesday. I would once again also like to thank our partners. That was Medtronic and Miray Kaymaz with the Blue Balloon Challenge. It is Sanofi with Nadia, Ait-Aissa, and Iker, who were talking about the kids program that they're supporting and education in general. And last not least, Diabloop, who have supported the special edition of Dog Day and are currently running their new campaign that you can see on our website, ddoc.org/World Diabetes Day. I'd also like to thank my amazing DDoc team here. They're all sitting in the background running the production here. That is Hanne, Steffi, Morgan, and Tebbe, who have been making sure everything works and are here in our Berlin studio. And there's Renza and Katharina and Laura and Natalie, who've been supporting from afar. And I also want to single out Steffi. If you know her, she is going to run the next part of Doc Day, which is going to launch in just about 2 hours, because DDoc is also running Germany's virtual World Diabetes Day, or the Doc Day on World Diabetes Day here for Germany, Austria, Switzerland. If you speak German, feel free to join in at 8 o'clock, 2000 European time, Central European time, Berlin time, that is. Steffi will be running Doc Day number 2. Last but not least, I would like to thank our DDoc voices around the world who always pay it forward. I know that many of them have been following. Some you saw come in with comments and questions. They pay it forward, they spread the word. And if you would like to know more about this wonderful DDoc Voices scholarship program that we are running, then you should again check out our website on ddoc.org/voices. You will see that the current call for applications for ATTD 2023, that is the Diabetes and Technology Conference taking place every year. And next year it will be here in Berlin. And we are running a new version of our DDoc Voices Scholarship Program. If you're interested, go check it out. The call for applications is open until the end of this month. I'd also like to conclude or to make you aware of our next events. There is a Doc Talk coming up on Thursday, the 26th of January. And our next official Doc Day after ATTD is on Thursday, the 30th of March, 2023. So stay tuned, follow our socials, follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, on our website, on Twitter, of course. If you want to know more, if you don't want to miss these events, we would love to see you there. This concludes our Doc Day, our special edition of Doc Day on World Diabetes Day. We really hope you have enjoyed it. We really hope you've enjoyed these different voices that we've brought in from all over Europe and all over the world. The hardest part for us is always to choose who we will give this stage to on a day like this. We don't want to run over 2 hours because that would become tiring, but I see that many of you are still watching. You haven't left. This is wonderful to know. Have a great World Diabetes Day, folks, wherever you are, be it in a time zone where World Diabetes Day is already done and over with, like in Australia, or where it's just starting, like over in the US, or whether it's just in the middle, like here. This is DDoc. This was Doc Day and World Diabetes Day. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.